Room. Today, I'm going to be talking to you, parents, about all the things that you can make as it relates to decisions, right? Like you have the academic decisions you need to make. We're talking about life skills, character, and then you throw in some sports, throw in some musical instruments, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much to decide. Like, now I'm going to introduce one more thing that you should be thinking about, and that is language. Do I start with Latin because it's the father of so many Romance languages? Do I start with Swahili? Do I do Tree? Like, what am I gonna do? How about we explore Mandarin? Because my guest today is on a musical movement to teach in Mandarin, and I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here.
I am really excited for you to be here because you just blow my mind. Like, I can't wait to hear your whole story. So tell us your name and tell us how Mandarin even became a thing in your life.
Okay, so I know that Mandarin's also a part of your life too, so I'd love to hear more about that.
For sure.
But my name is Rudianne Brown. Call me Rudy, Rudy Lauscher, teacher Rudy. And it started with Spanish. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to
Okay.
be a Spanish teacher. And then as I was exploring as a teenager, and I also was homeschooled, so we'll get to that. I was exploring as a teenager and I came across Chinese. And I was like, this sounds so cool. I love it. And I actually, the first thing I heard in Chinese was actually a song. And it was something like, Tian, Tian, do shi ni an, wo de xin si you ni ta," some
Hey.
R&B feel. And I was like, I love this. This is awesome. So I got into that. And then I was like, you know what? I would love to be a Mandarin teacher. And that's when I just started to push further and get education and learn more about it. And being a homeschooler, I was able to have that flexibility to say, you know what? I want to go ahead and pursue that language and learn it. And then that was it. Undergrad, I did Asian studies, and I also have my bachelor's in teaching Chinese as a second language. And then for my master's, I did linguistics and education. And then I also was able to do doctoral studies in China, which was an amazing experience. And that's what actually landed me in China for that period of time. In all, I was in China for 10 years.
Wow.
And I also had my children there, and I also met my husband there.
Oh my God.
And my whole life, like China just, I guess, enhanced my life. And I'm really grateful to God that He brought me there.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so now I feel like I need to go back. All
I have to go
right,
back.
so tell me about you, the woman, like no titles, no husband, no mom, no Lausche, none of that. Like,
Mhm.
tell me about like your like who you are as a woman, and then tell me how you ended up being homeschooled. Because for me, like I feel like homeschooling is becoming mainstream now, but back in the days, unless you're a military brat or like missionary or like
Mhm.
you don't really hear it that much. So we want to know all the things.
Okay, so we are Jamaican, and my mom, when she first came to the States, she just, I guess she preferred Jamaican education, perhaps, and also being a strong Christian, she wanted to make sure her kids didn't get that American mentality, whatever that might be. So being like an immigrant child, and she said that, she wanted to take care of our education. So she started homeschooling us, and that's how we kind of went into the whole homeschooling thing. And I'm a strong advocate for homeschooling. I think that every child is so different. And I love the idea of being able to nurture that child in the way that they need instead of putting them in a class with 20 students. Now, I'm not against not homeschooling. I think that there's benefits on both sides, but every child is different. And if your child does do better with homeschooling, then absolutely try your best to get whatever resources you can to help your child to succeed. And that's really where it started. And then after that, it kind of gave me that, I guess, that skill of being able to learn things on my own, which I think that a lot of times we rely on teachers and rely on these kinds of stuff. But with homeschooling, it kind of teaches you to be independent. Like, what do you want to study? What do you want to learn? How do you want to learn it? And that's exactly what we were able to do in my schooling.
Your mom is a
Mhm.
whole pioneer.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Okay. So you went to China to actually study and then you lived there. Tell me about that. How old were you when you moved? What was it like? Who did you go with? All the things.
Okay, so I went there. The first time I went there, it was actually when I first graduated high school, and
Okay.
I was able to go there with a university. So I was connected to the university, and I went to with the university for about 2 weeks just to kind of get my feet in the water, and
Hmm.
then I went back again for an internship. Now, like the idea of just being able to find opportunities. First of all, when you do know Mandarin, there are so many opportunities. It's incredible. It's wonderful. So I was able to do this internship, and it was me working for the American and Jamaican Pavilion in China for a World Expo. absolutely phenomenal, a wonderful experience. And I was able to find that just knowing that, like, oh yeah, when it comes to finding resources, we gotta find it. You know,
Right.
people aren't gonna just give it to you. So we did find that. That was my first time in China for 6 months. And I loved it so much that I had to go back again. So when I was in undergrad, I did study abroad for 2 years. And I was in two different cities. And then after coming back from that, I graduated and I started teaching at a high school and a middle school. And I taught Mandarin and it was wonderful. We had such a great time. And I was like, you know what, kids? I mean, I was a kid too at the time, but I was like, you know what, guys? I was like, I need to go back to China because I really want to experience like China to its fullest. And
Wow.
that's when I said, you know what? So I applied for, after doing my master's, I applied for a PhD program and I went to Xiamen, one of the most beautiful places in China, beautiful island. And I was there for a very long period of time. And that's where everything went down.
Wow. That is amazing. All right, so we have the history. We understand how you got there. Um,
Mhm.
is the World Expo in the same city every year?
So no, it's like kind of like the World Cup. You know what I mean? Like it's
Okay.
going to be in different places every 10 years. I believe that they have a World Expo. Every 10 years they have one.
Where
So
was it
then I
when you
think
were there?
it was in Shanghai,
I was
China.
there.
You were not
I
there.
was there. That's why I'm
Are
asking you,
you
because if you said it was
serious?
always in Shanghai, I'm like, okay, we probably missed each other, but I was there.
No. So did you actually go to the World Expo?
Yes.
Okay,
And I
what month did
remember
you go?
seeing Germany and being like, the Germans make everything. Like they had the most massive, you would see like over here is this country, over here is that country, and then it's like the whole space. But oh my God,
Yes.
we probably
That
rubbed
was one of the
shoulders.
good
I probably
ones.
said, hey girl.
That's too funny. I can't believe it. That's so amazing. Wow. The American Pavilion was like, okay. I was just like, all right. Everybody expected something big and glorious, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
America. But it was just like a video of like Obama and Kobe Bryant. And that
Okay, so
was
we were
it.
definitely
Like,
there at the same time because I remember being there and people would be like, oh, you're from Obama land. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. I was there
what a good
2008 to
question.
2010. So we,
Stop.
at some
Yeah,
point,
we
yeah.
crossed off like at one point. That's so cool. So it was a great experience. I want like our kids to also have those experiences, and that's the reason why like I really push and advocate like in my program that I teach that I'm just like you guys need to take these opportunities. And right now China is leading with opportunities, scholarships, internships, everything from A to Z. China already has it. So I know
Yeah.
that there's some kids that are interested in technology, for example. Well, where are you going to get your technology from? Like a lot of the devices and the equipment, you're going to get it from China. So
Mhm.
to have that, you know, that connection for business, trade, everything, it's like we want our kids to be in it.
That's
So
right.
no better place to start than learning Mandarin, right?
Yeah. So I got so enamored by you that I forgot that we're talking about the kids. Okay, so yes, because that's how I found you. I don't remember. I was in some group chat and somebody said, "Oh, you know, there's this lady, she's offering a Mandarin class and there's a free session and da da da." And like I popped in and then I found out you're Jamaican. I'm like, I'm Jamaican too. And I found out you live in China. I'm like, I live in China too. And then I found out
Yes.
you're like the most dope, phenomenal woman. I'm like, she has to teach my kids. Like, why am I going to struggle trying to do this when there's this woman? So let's talk about two things. One, the benefits of learning Mandarin, because you started to talk about some of it a little bit in terms of like the global economy and how
Mhm.
beneficial it is. And then something that makes you really unique, because I've seen not only your videos, but I've heard my kid coming out with the music and the movement. So, like, first question is,
Mhm.
what are the benefits of learning Mandarin? And two, why music and movement? Why is that important?
So of course, like when it comes to just like our brains, for some reason, Mandarin really helps. It boosts our brains, and they have so much scientific evidence about it. The characters, the tones, all these different things, and it really helps students to be able to learn to concentrate better, to have better memory, and science is still trying to figure out why. That's one aspect of it. And then the other one is really just the opportunity. And I tell my daughter this all the time is that the opportunity is fresh. And
Mm.
there's so many things that you can do when you have the Mandarin, anything. So I want my kids to be able to have those opportunities, especially when it comes from, especially when you go outside of the states, especially in the states as well, but outside of the states as well. It's like every single country in South America, in Africa, and all these other countries that you have, like in Asia. Everybody is doing things with China. So when you have Chinese as one of your languages, it is an incredible like just up that you kind of kind of just be different from the crowd. Like, but I'm not really saying the best words, but you guys can kind of get the understanding of like what I mean by it. So we definitely want our kids to have Mandarin. Spanish is great too. Mandarin is amazing. And then The other question that you had was really based on,
The
just
music
say it
and the
again.
movement.
So basically, like the thing that I did with Mandarin, because Mandarin is one of the most difficult languages in the world. Now we want to learn it because yes, it's also the most spoken language in the world. I know that like right now yeah, it's the most spoken language. So now you're working with a language that's very, very difficult. How do we help our kids to master it? And with my studies, since I am a linguist, and that's been my major, and my area of research, we realize that music is such a beneficial way to help us to memorize and learn anything, right? And then
Mhm.
especially Mandarin for people who don't have languages that are tonal languages. So what I do, that I switch it up a little bit, is that I do put everything on a beat. And not just because it's like, oh, this is cool. It's not because it's cool. There's an actual linguistic reason behind it. Mandarin has tones. So
Mhm.
you have ma, 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 ma. And all those four things are four different tones, meaning completely different things. And it's so important for our children to learn those tones, and for adults as well. So what I do in my classes is I put it on a beat so that their brains are going to be able to understand it better and be able to produce it better. And it actually does work. This is actually a part of my doctoral research, and we saw that there were greater ability to acquire the tones were
Mhm.
stronger when they use the music that was on that beat rather than just by itself. So that's one thing that I do that's very different from other teachers, is that we do put everything to a beat. Helps you in so many different ways. It also helps our classes. If the classes are extended, maybe the classes are 30 minutes or 45 minutes, it doesn't feel like a long time. It actually feels like a very short time, because part of the time you're still going, oh, qi chuang, he shui. You know what I mean? And then it helps them get used to the language and the sounds. And it's a really wonderful way to learn the language, so you can have fun and you can actually learn to speak well and really develop that pronunciation properly.
Okay, no, that's really good because I want to talk about how to make it accessible, right? Like someone may be listening, like, okay, that sounds all great, but it's still hard. How do I do it? Well, one answer is obviously they come to your class and then they don't have to do it, right? But if they
Yeah.
wanted to take it on their own, I wanted to talk about those tones because my boys, before working with you, I was teaching them Mandarin. I just had this video recording and we would do 5 minutes a day and then we would try to converse, right? Um,
Hmm.
but I found it hard as the sole person speaking. Like if you're immersed, right, because the husband and the wife speaks it, then it's easier. They just pick it up
Yeah.
because of the immersion.
Hmm.
But like me trying to teach, I wasn't as consistent. So I had this video-based program that we're using, and they were gaining vocabulary, but then they couldn't really put it together, right? So they knew how to say apple, but they couldn't say I want an apple. And then I see how you
Okay.
fuse not only the vocabulary, but the grammar and everything together, right?
Yeah.
So when we first started, the one who's in your class would come out and he would talk to his brother, and he was so tickled that he could mistakenly call his mother a horse because of the
Oh.
tones, right? And he's like, "Oh, mommy, did you know in China, if you say ma, it could be mother, or it could be hemp, or it could be horse, or it could be," and I'm like, that's really intriguing to you, huh? But I have my own story. I remember when I was in China. So I have no formal training. I did not study Chinese. I just picked up and
Pick it up
I'm
on
like,
your own.
we're going to
Hmm.
China, right? So, and I was
Hmm.
single at the time, no husband, no children. So I was just kind of immersed in the culture because once I left my school, no one spoke English. So I remember
Yeah.
going and I tried to like order tea, but of course it would just like be this hot plastic cup. And I'm like, can I put some sugar in it? So I'll say, can I have some tongue?
Yeah.
And they'd bring me some soup, and I'm like, no, 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 not tongue, 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 tongue. And I'm like, tongue, 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 tongue. And I'm like, just give me the soup. So that was the last time I had sugar in my tea.
That's hilarious. I love that. And I want to tell my students those stories so they can just be encouraged to be like, "Oh wait, the tones are super important. Let me say it, let me learn how to say it correctly."
Yeah. So
Um,
obviously, I don't want you to give me all the tools in your toolbox, but
mm,
outside of music and movement, how do you make it accessible? A kid comes on and they're probably not there because they want to. Their parents understand the importance and that's why they're there. And some kids actually want to, right? So for the ones
yeah.
who are kind of being forced or encouraged, how do you make it so accessible for them? Like as you talk about the tones and all the different things.
Yeah, so I guess like in my classes, what we do is yes, the music is a very hot part of it, but we also do it with like meaningful context. So we always are having like different things, that strategies they have to do, things that they have to accomplish. These like we love to do like in a communicative setting. So then that means we have like they have a friend called Xiaowang, and that's their buddy, that's their friend, and they met him in China, and they talk to him, and they go back and forth, and it's cool, you know. And I use a lot of different voices from outside so that they can hear other Chinese people speaking or other Mandarin speakers speaking. We also do like a lot of, I have like really cute graphics, and I know that everybody loves graphics. It doesn't matter if you're a child or an adult, because I do adult classes too, and they really enjoy it because it's like we're always kids at heart. So like we love it when it looks like it's presented in that way. And then those things combined really just help everybody stay very engaged. So I've never had an issue with engagement. And also I do have like students who are on the spectrum and they've never been able to sit through a class, but they're enjoying my class so much, and they've been able to do the whole entire semester with no issues. So I know that this class is really just designed for really everyone. It has a little bit of everything so everybody can kind of catch on and just move with it and then learn one of the most important languages to learn in 2026.
Wow, I love that. So what do you do outside of your classes? So I know you talked about you did your doctoral, you used to teach in high school, I believe you taught at university. What are you
Mhm.
doing as it relates to Mandarin outside of your online classes? And what do you do in the home? Like how are you bringing it home to these babies?
Okay, so one of the things that, yeah, you did mention that I did teach at the university, and I just recently had a baby, so like I'm on rest, and that's why, you know, I'm really up with these. I have a lot of time to do like my classes and things like that, but my personal classes. But one thing I do with at home, it's really important. So in my program, they do have like an offline class time portion because we know how many hours it takes to be able to gain fluency, to be able
Okay.
to speak the language. So I give that opportunity for everyone so that the ones that do want to push forward and keep going, they absolutely can. That means altogether every week, you could do about 3 hours of Mandarin if you wanted to, anywhere from like 1 hour to 3 hours.
Mhm.
So with my kids, thankfully, they're also inside enrolled in the course as well. So it makes it easy for me. All I have to do is pop on the offline class time. The offline class time is really cool because it gives them opportunity to just dance or to just practice saying things. It's not like you're just staring at a computer. You're moving, you're dancing, you're responding, you're looking for things inside the house, like you're doing different things, different activities. So it's really cool to be able to use the language, you know, without like not being in the classroom, outside the classroom. That's the offline class time.
Mhm.
And then also I do play the music often for them so that they can constantly be like immersed inside all the different language since we're not
That's their
inside of
background
that setting.
noise.
Exactly. That's
Oh,
the background.
wow.
So
Okay.
even the 2-year old can actually say a lot of things. And it's like, we're like, we weren't even thinking about her, you know, and she's able to say a lot of stuff. I'll be like, oh, ni hao ma. And she'd be like, oh, wa han hao ni na. And she's 2, you know? So it's cool to like see how like the brain actually will acquire this on its own. You don't have to like put too much into it. You just have to give that exposure. And that's what
Mhm.
my program does. It does give you that exposure so that you have it. And it does excite the kids and excite adults as well and
Yeah.
motivate them to just keep going. And that's something that like a lot of language classes don't have. So I'm filling in
Mhm.
that gap, let's say.
I
Hmm.
love that. I can actually attest to that because right now I only have one child enrolled because of the time conflict. But my 3-year old, he just turned 3 in March. When he was 2, he would walk around Do Yan Jing Hu Zhen's Way. And then literally all of us would come in, Tofa, Tofa, just right. Like so we're going off. We're talking about eyes, nose. Right, we're talking about ears, eyes, nose,
Yeah.
mouth, and then hair, right? Like, I'm sorry,
Tofa,
we need to bring it back in.
tofa.
Right. And he would go around singing that. And I was like, wow, that is immersion at its best because he probably saw, my middle guy watching the video or like singing it.
Mhm.
And he literally, and he knows what it means. That's the other thing too, because he would do the hand motions. Oh,
Exactly.
wow. That's
So we put a
awesome.
song on, and then when like the toe, like the hair part comes on, my 2-year-old will also be like shaking their head like this. So you know that like they understand it, and that's
Yeah.
that's it. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how you're supposed to learn language, like naturally picking it up, the way that you learned it as well. You
Yeah.
know, having that
Yeah.
environment. We're
And
we're we're recreating the environment here in our house in America or wherever outside of China. You
mm,
understand?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm glad that I met you because before I was doing it isolated. Okay, guys, we're going to do our Mandarin time. All right, we're done with Mandarin, right? But
Yep.
I remember like sometimes I'll say, okay, if you want an apple, you have to ask me in Mandarin. But outside of that, we weren't immersed the way we are right now. Um, I
Mhm.
remember you saying that Mandarin is one of the hardest languages to learn, and that's definitely true. What I
Mhm.
will kind of pitch for Mandarin is that the grammar is actually really, really easy. Either it's easy or I just did it wrong. Because if I'm
No.
not mistaken, because again, I don't have any formal training. If I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken, if you want to say I love or I loved yesterday or I was in love or all the different, you're literally just using the same two words, right? And then you
Yeah, they
use the
don't have.
context clue, right? So it's not like in where
Mhm.
we're doing I am and you're conjugating and I
No
was like we don't do that in Mandarin.
conjugations, no tenses, like as you would
Yeah,
see in English, you know, that makes it, that aspect is extremely easy.
I'd say
That
so.
aspect is extremely easy. So when they do say things like, "Oh, Mandarin's like one of the hardest languages to learn," I understand the point, but then
The tonal
there,
piece.
I would even argue that English is maybe harder to learn, you know,
So,
in many different
okay,
aspects.
when I'm teaching
Mhm.
my kids, I'll say, and I'm sure you've seen these videos where someone says, okay, so if this is LEAD, that's lead, right? Yeah. Okay, so this is READ. Is that red, right? Like they'd have to flip it because
Yeah.
read could be it could be read or it could be read. And like so we've seen in English where because of the Greek and the Latin influences, it's really, really hard to learn. I will literally teach my kids something and I'm like, okay, if it's C and it has this letter behind it, it's K. If it has this letter, it's S. And they're like, well, what about this word? I'm
Mhm.
like, that's
Uh-oh.
an exception. Like literally the minute you teach the rule, you're teaching the exception.
Right? That's exactly how English is. Like there's so many different exceptions. It's hard. It's difficult. And that's why like, you know, when people are learning English, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
With Mandarin, it's like the challenge really lies within like the characters and the tones. And if we can really like get our students to, I really try to get my students to grasp that early, so that the later stuff it'll make it just easier to be able to, you know, acquire the rest of the language as time goes on.
Yeah, I'm illiterate. I cannot read or I can write a few things, but I can't read much. So my son is getting a tool that I even haven't gotten for myself. So I need to make some space and time to be in one of your classes so I can be on par.
Right? It's such a rewarding experience. Do you guys plan to go to China again?
We do. We do. So I went
Mhm.
by myself. I wasn't married. I didn't have children. So they've actually never been.
Mhm.
But my husband is big on geopolitics. So we're just trying to see when is a good time to actually go. But I feel like there's always going to be something happening in the world. You just have to, you
Yeah,
know,
there's always going to be something. So
there's
you
always
just
going to have
pick a
something.
time, be like, you know what, 2028, that's it. We're
We're
going to
coming.
China. We're going to spend 2 weeks there. Exactly. Oh
Yeah.
man, that's wonderful.
So one thing you mentioned, you talked about fluency. How many languages, how many hours does it take? Is it the same for every language, or does each language have a different goal or
No
time?
one ever has a number for a language. However, when it comes to languages that are like more similar to English, let's say
Okay.
Spanish, there's a lot of, you know what I mean? There's a lot
You
of,
can read it.
yes, you can
Mhm.
like read it. There's things that like kind of overlap. Then, of course, it's going to take a shorter time for you to really to
Okay.
master that language, especially given the fact that the I guess like when it comes to, yeah, Spanish, it's like it's so close to us. A lot of words overlap.
Mhm.
You're just reading it like you see gato, it's gato. You know what I mean? Like it's not like
Right.
it's gonna be anything else. Like characters are different. So yes, in that sense. When it comes to Chinese, yes, you're gonna have to put some more time in it because of the differences. I know that there are some languages that are similar to Chinese, and then those people will not have to spend as much time. But
Right.
nevertheless, time must be spent. You
Mhm.
know, time must be spent. And if you're not actually in the environment getting those 24 hours of immersion each day, or maybe let's say 12, because you'll be sleeping for maybe 12,
Right.
then you have to put an extra effort
I see.
to get that acquisition thing going in your brain. And I would say like a minimum, if your goal is fluency, like
Yeah.
now, then it would be a minimum of 3 hours per week, which I make it really easy in my program to be able to attain that. It's hard
Yeah.
to do it like on your own, but in my program, like you can actually do that without thinking so much with the music and stuff. You be playing it while you're doing playing with the toys. Like there's ways to do it so that you can actually achieve that time, reach that time goal. But I would say that like when you're in the States, it's gonna take about 2 years for you to really get a really strong grasp of the language. And I would say for me, and there's one thing I do want to like point out though is too, like when you do take my program, there is a pathway that after 1 year you go to China with me. I know I never said yes. There's a pathway to go to China with me. So then the next trip is actually going to be in April, and Some people are already like, oh yeah, we want to definitely do it. And so we'll definitely talk about it more. But that's one thing is that like going to the actual environment and just like hearing it from all different corners, that actually boosts your Chinese so much
Oh yeah.
that I had to incorporate it in my program.
Oh
So we do
wow.
have that available.
That's major. That's really major.
Oh yeah.
All
It's
right. So
necessary.
it's necessary.
Yes.
So for someone who's on the fence, I know it's important. I hear all the benefits, but Rudy Lao I don't know. Push it down. Like, what would you say then?
I would say that like if you're on the fence, that's a great place to be. Just jump right over and come on in. You'll never meet anyone who says that they regret learning Mandarin or like, oh, they never use their like you absolutely will benefit, especially in this day and age, that you can't even see all the benefits that are there for you. And there are so many scholarships, there are so many internships, there are so many companies that when they see Mandarin, they're just like, oh wow, that's really good eats. Like I want you. And so you want to get your kid into it now, and you yourself will probably want to get into it as well because it's good. They even had a study about how it helps people who are declining mentally when you learn Chinese or when you learn the characters. It actually helps to improve your brain function. So it's like, let's get into it now. Let's not put it aside anymore. Get off the fence, you know?
Awesome. You heard it here first. Any final thoughts? Anything you're like, I did want to mention this or anything you want to share?
I guess the only thing I would like to say is that, like, guys, if you're gonna learn Mandarin, you need to learn it on that beat. Okay, so it's Mandarin on that beat, and that's it. Like, you just gotta learn it. You just gotta learn it. But no, I really do encourage like homeschoolers, especially. One thing I did realize as a homeschooler myself, that we didn't have enough access to the foreign languages, whereas like kids in school, they had it. They have like their classes every single day, and some kids don't even listen in class, but you have those opportunities to be able to do class or even go on a little trip with your school in the summer or whatnot. Homeschoolers cannot keep leaving out foreign languages because it's so essential for their development. It's so essential for their opportunities. It's so essential in this day and age. Just we're like in a global world right now. So basically, I would say that don't skimp out on the foreign languages and find a way. And Duolingo is not enough. It's not gonna really get our kids to where we need them to
Tell
be.
us.
Duolingo will not do it.
Oh wow. No, that's
Yes.
really good. I appreciate you for sharing that because again, like as a homeschool parent, there's so many decisions you have to make and you're trying to balance all these things. But I think you laying out all the benefits helps us. It's like research, check, check, check. You listed all the benefits. So we really appreciate your time today. Thank you for sharing your story with
Thank you
us.
so much. Thank you so much. And then if there's anyone like who needs like a little bit of encouragement or boost, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like I do post a lot of encouragement on my Instagram. Definitely cut this out if this is not necessary. But it's baby Mandarin mama because the way that we should be learning any language should be the way a baby learns it naturally. And that's what I do. That's why it's baby Mandarin mama. So I'm going to make it like a baby and we're going to learn it like a baby and we're going to acquire it and be able to speak it as good as children learn to speak it when they're in those environments.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for having me. I feel so blessed to be here. Thank you
Oh,
so much. Thank you
my
so much.
pleasure.
Mhm.